G'day, punters. Welcome back to another huge edition of All In, joined by none other than Dean Watling from the Barrier Attendant and Lewis Willoughby from Sky Racing. Kick off the show. Dino, how are you, mate?
Good, fellas. Good to be back. It was an outstanding week of racing. Golden Slipper, All-Star Mile, plenty to dissect. So keen to rip in, boys.
Louis, mate, good to have you back. Chooks are on fire, 2 from 2. How are you?
Yes, very happy now. That's a big win. It wasn't proper clinical, but I think a more mental edge win than anything, putting them to the sword. And it's always going to be a good week after we beat South. You know that, Gannon. Look, did the wheels fall off a bit for our tips after such a hot start to the Group 1 season last week? Yes, they probably did. But, even the best of champions have an off week. So expect us all to bounce back this week.
And speaking of the best of champions, Animo got the job done after sitting, well, we could probably say conservatively 2.5 wide after a great ride from J-Mac, but it's a perfect segue into Ride of the Week. Louis, what do you got for us, Ride of the Week?
Yeah, I'm going to throw up a few here. I first want to mention Craig Newitt's ride to win the Adelaide Cup going back to last Monday on a horse that was pretty unwanted by the market, led them up, set a cracking tempo, pushed along a long way from home, but just kept it going, and none of the rest of them could catch. So he is really, really in form at the moment, Craig Newitt. I'd be, if you're pricing up markets and he's on a horse, you'd be tightening it in a little bit because I think he's riding in very good form. I also want to mention last night, Sunday night in the Hong Kong Derby, Alexi Bedell to win. I can't remember the name of the horse, but I was in there watching that race. It was a big afternoon from Sha Tin. It was outsider in the market, might have been 40s or something, but Alexi Bedell, huge win there in the Hong Kong Derby, so he gets it. And you mentioned Animo before we started shooting. J-Mac perfecting the art of sitting 2.5 wide.
It's very, very impressive. And I'll tell you what, hats off to a bit of a side note to a new member of the GTO team, Nick Ashman, who steered the punters into the winner of the Adelaide Cup around $51 early doors. So up you go, Nick Ashman. Dino, horse to follow, mate. I know you've done a lot of reviewing of the weekend's meeting. Maybe give us a horse to follow, maybe a bit of a thought of the week as well, mate.
Yeah, it was an outstanding week. It was probably tricky. A lot of these weeks we're having grand final runs, so there's not too much to follow. I think if we're going to follow anything, it's the obvious out of the weekend at Rosehill. I think Do I Honour was phenomenal to the eye, and the sectionals and the data probably backed it up even more so. So put him in the black book. There's one out of the midweeks too, a horse by the name of Goldman for the Waterhouse and Bott stable, which we'll touch on in a second. Who goes around potentially in a race this weekend, but he put up a massive figure, 2 big wins now, and he's beckoned for stakes grade, I think. And Louis, the horse that you're thinking of, Voyager Bubble, massive odds, around the 81 price to win the Hong Kong Derby. So my thoughts of the weekend, boys, I think the slipper was great. I think if you backed Cylinder and King's Gambit, you've probably done the right thing in the form guide. And if you've found Shinzo, well done to you. But don't be too hard on yourself. If you didn't find the winner, those races can throw up a result. But it's going to be fascinating to see how Animo bounces out of that win back to 1,500 metres. He's probably helped by a slowish tempo, 2.5 wide as well, and got to the key lane. So maybe do we have to bring back the win a touch? I'm not sure, but I'm sure the race of the Queen Elizabeth will be outstanding.
Can we get a quick comment on international jockeys now coming over here for Group 1 races? Ryan Moore, bang, bang, 2 on the day. I mean, I've been critical of it in the past.
Me too.
I know we all have, to be fair. So what did we make of that?
Fantastic. Probably on the right horses, which probably is really important. On this day, we got it wrong, and they got it right. But maybe just hats off to William Haggis because, let's be honest, he's absolutely pants us 2 weeks in a row. And the best bit is we're so stupid. We're sitting here going, the stable say, oh, no, needs it wet. Wouldn't have seen a dry track in its life than what it's seen, both these 2 horses have seen the last few weekends. And they've absolutely pants us, dominated, so well done. Let me give you the tip. They won't be starting $4 or $5 next time they roll around, these horses. But hey, it's all part of the game, the great game. It continues to evolve. But, Dino, I know that you say that we couldn't have found Shinzo, but I tell you what, there was some huge speed map stats that just stood out, and we talked about it on last week's show, and hopefully some punters did pick up on it, but that finding the rail in run, if you weren't in the top 6, that was a big one, and that's a horse something like, Shinzo did produce. So hopefully we steered punters into something, because that's about all we could have done because we didn't go that well. Righto, boys, let's go straight into the week ahead, and we're going to kick off at the Valley with the William Reid Stakes. Bit of a couple of the nominations here. There's 16 nominations, but a couple of the more confirmed runners with jockey booking: Masked Crusader, Jai McNeil, Paul Ely, Damien Oliver, Jigsaw, Daniel Moore, King of Sparta, Jay Allen, A Case of You, Mark Zara, Bella Nipotina with Benny Mellon, September Run, Nash, Rawilla, Rockin' Horse, Jamie Mott, Marabi, B. Allen, Imperatrice, your $2.30 favourite, Opie Boston, there you go, and Babylon Berlin. Not a horse I know much about, Blake Shin. Louis, why don't you kick us off with the William Reid Stakes?
Yep, so September Run won this last year. The key form lines probably in the last 7 years have been the Newmarket and the Oakley Plate, if you're doing your historical ones and you want to look through those races to try and find the winner. To touch on the favourite Imperatrice, I was bullish on it in that Group 1 in Sydney last time out. It sat outside the lead on a pretty okay tempo. It wasn't anything cracking and looked all over the winner, and Artorias just bombed it and won. That form stuck up well. Artorias went very close to Animo, I think, kind of underplayed there how close it really got on the weekend. A few strides and, who knows. So it's flying, the horse. Form looks good. 1,300 back to 1,200 is my little, not knock. It's a Group 1 winner over 1,200, but it's my query. I think its peak runs are 1,400 and 1,600. So I don't know what to do there. It does have a positive racing pattern, though. That's the positive. And to touch on Babylon Berlin, well, they've got a lot of form around each other. Normally what happens over there in New Zealand is that Babylon Berlin leads them up, and Imperatrice beats it almost every time. So if you like Babylon Berlin, you'd probably be willing to take Imperatrice over it. I'm going to tip Jigsaw here. Not entirely sure what price it is, but I think it's rock hard fit. It's in huge form. It won here in the Australia Stakes at Group 2 level at the track and distance. Did it beat anything in that race that would stack up in this? No, but it's flying. It's running time. It's had 2 jump outs since then. If you watch the latest, it missed the start by about 100 lengths, but forget about that. I read an article. Its head was up in the stalls or some crazy story, and it actually still finished off really well. So that's fine. I'm really happy to be with it at a price. I think it's a positive racing pattern, always up there on speed. I'm happy to be with Jigsaw here. A Case of You's the really interesting runner. Ex-European horse, first start for the new stable. Group 1 winner in Dubai. Form just kind of fell apart at the back end of last preparation. It's had the 3 jump outs leading in, not asked to do anything. All of them really strong through the line. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it running a race. But at the odds, whatever they are, when we find out, I think Jigsaw probably looks the bet. Dino?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Since Gelder, this preparation, Jigsaw's become a great horse. Figures have been outstanding. It just gets underplayed in the market purely, I think, because people just have an opinion of his previous forms when he wasn't gelded. So I like that. Louis got the on-pace pattern as well that suits the Valley. I'm going to head the way of King of Sparta. I really loved his run in the Oakley Plate. Back to the inside was really good. Uncommon James, Usapor have come out of that race, and so has Lofty Strike. And they've stacked up pretty well. Dry track suits him. The big query, and hopefully he draws well enough here. I think if he draws wide, you got to take your medicine. He's going to go back, and it's probably going to be a negative setup. But I think he's going really well. And Bella Nipotina's stats at the Valley and her peak performance she did last year in the Manikato, I'm pretty sure it was phenomenal. She probably wants to sting out of touch, which Louis, you mentioned pre-show, that probably not going to get any rain this week. But they're the 2 I'd be playing in the William Reid. It's fascinating with that import that you mentioned too, A Case of You. Mark Zara wouldn't be taking the ride if Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr. didn't have a big opinion. So really good race, Gano. I'm heading the way of King of Sparta and Bella Nipotina.
If there was a race you're going to fence it, this would be the one, because fair income, there's just that many good quality horses. This is a good horse race. I really can't wait to sit back and watch. I've noticed that Benedetta is nominated. Then you've got a horse that like Passive Aggressive that's nominated, and you got a horse like In the Congo that's nominated that weren't sort of in the the confirmed stages. So I just can't wait to see what the final field looks like, and I could potentially back any of those 3 if they did run up here.
If those first 2 you mentioned go, Benedetta and Passive Aggressive, I'd be pretty happy to change my tip to one of those 2. I think Benedetta is a machine, as is Passive Aggressive. I kind of did my form thinking that they won't go. But if they are to go, Benedetta, wow, this horse, I hate to sound like a tool. This horse could be anything. This horse, you know what I mean? Like, it's a terrible comment.
It could.
Do you know what I mean?
Good.
We don't know what's ceiling, Lou. We don't know what's ceiling, mate.
serious
Nah,
horse.
could be
keen to see
anything.
what it does.
I hope they save it for Flemington, Louis, on Saturday, and we see the matchup with What You Need. I just don't know if the Valley's her go, but like you mentioned, she is a dead
That's
set Group
another
1
horse.
winner in the mating.
What You Need. That's a serious horse too. That was a huge win.
I reckon Benedetta will give What You Need Windburn, but there you go.
Wow. Big call.
Well, I like making them. Right, boys, the Australian Cup Group 1, weight for age over 2,000 metres at Cascadian on the 7-day backup gets Benny Mellum. Fuetor, it loomed last start. It loomed and just went puff, gave nothing. He's a shocker. Damien Oliver, non-conformist, Geordie Childs, Smoking Romans, a mystery, Blake Shin, Regal Power for J League Junior. Geez, they need to start firing up. Uncle Bryn, Right You Are, Campanessa, Luna Flare, Inspirational Girl, Steinem, just some of the runners that have confirmed their intentions to go there. There are 32 nominations. Louis, kick us off with the Australian Cup.
Yep, I'll be short and sharp here. As you guys know, and the viewers should start to know, that staying races, anything over 1,800 metres, is definitely not my forte. But when I was looking at this race, historically, the Group 2 Peter Young Stakes is a great lead-in for this. And so, therefore, I think Steinem was definitely mid-double figures, like around that $15 mark. Unsure if that's what it'll be when it pops back up. But it won the Group 2 Peter Young in a race that was really funnily run. Keats went 1,000,000 miles an hour in front. I know its form hasn't really stacked up, went to the All-Star Mile and was well beaten, like a horse like that in an All-Star Mile should be, to be fair. But I love the way Steinem attacked the line. And if that's the form line that I want to follow into this race, I'm happy to be with it again.
Love it. What do you got for us, Dino?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the one I want to be against, I probably don't have a strong opinion backing any horses in this, but I think Cascadian was early favourite in the all-in markets, and I'm guessing off that run in the All-Star Mile probably will be in the mind of punters and will come up short. I just don't like him up to 2,000 metres on the quick back up there. I think he's the one I'm keen to be against, and if you're going to have a bet in the race, which I'm probably not, I think Right You Are is the one that keeps getting underrated by the market, has a brilliant on-pace pattern and can do no wrong and stays in form. That's what you like to see. Most of them do mix their form. So probably going to be against Cascadian, fellas, and that's probably my main play in the race.
Yeah, love it, Dino. I'm with Louis. I think Steinem's a great bet if you can get a $15 price when the markets do open up again. I think Steinem's a horse I'd be happy to back each way, but very, very hard race to get a handle on at this point in time. I think a horse like Arapaho that was really good in a Canberra Cup could bring a different form line too. It is nominated. Whether we do see it go there, well, that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
We'll know.
Nominated for
the Tancred as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Good segue, Dino, into the Tancred Stakes, and we'll head to Rosehill for that. The rail is out 5 metres from the 1,400 to the winning post for the remainder. Dino, how do you think a track will play based on that setup? Look, not to be too critical because the track managers have got a job to do, but there was clearly overwatering Saturday, and the track, we didn't get the kind of track that you'd normally see. What are your thoughts, A, on how the track played last Saturday, and B, what you think we'll see this week?
Yeah, well, on my ratings to win data, which you get, obviously you get the rating that's on the Racing Australia, Racing New South Wales Times, and the rating they put up, and the first couple of races rated around that soft 5 mark. So I think what we saw was that Inside just got watered on a really hot week, really hot day. The last thing they wanted to do was to see the rail be really hot. All horses can't get to the rail. All horses can get off the rail. So I think that's the point they were coming to. I don't mind it as long as us punters know, which we didn't really know. So this weekend, I think we'll go back to it'll be tricky. There's rain expected Thursday, Friday. So I think we probably won't be on a good track. We'll be on a soft 5, soft 6, soft 7 setup. So I think on pace, you don't want to have momentum stop. So I think those key lanes will probably potentially get off the fence, and you sort of want to be on pace. I think that's how it's going to play, Gannon.
Outstanding. All right, kick off with the Tancred Stakes. You got Gold Trip here, Mark Zara, booked to ride, Knight's Order, Timmy Clark, Stockman, Sammy Clipperton, Baron Samedi. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sure Louis will know. Cleveland.
Very good.
That's a pretty easy one, Cleveland, for the golf fans out there. Explosive, Jack, J. Allen, King Frankel, Arapaho, Allegron, Zarek. Oh, my God. Every time I hear that horse's name, it just makes me want to lock myself in a cupboard. Dino, what do you got for the 2023 Group 1 Tancred Stakes.
Yeah, I think this will shape to be a really good contest. Obviously, the rain will help a fair few here. Stockman, Gold Trip, we know, love the sting out of it. I think this is a much better setup for Gold Trip. He was really, really good first up off that hot tempo. Is he going to get that here? Probably not, but he's going to get the wet track. So I think that suits. But at the same time, fellas, Gannon mentioned off the top of the show, William Haggis has brought some horses out here, and he's had 6 winners from 11 starters in Australia at average odds of $5. It's just phenomenal that they keep going out on the radar. Simply, they're better than our staying stock or our 2,000 metre plus stock. So I'm happy enough to play both of the O'Brien horses. Baron Samedi has the better credentials and the better ratings, but is a touch older and probably doesn't have as much upside as Cleveland. So for that reason, I'm probably going to leave the way of Cleveland. Has a lot more upside. 4-year-old, like that profile out here. Distance, no issue at all. But it'll be interesting which way the market goes. So if I'm betting in this race, I'd be happy enough to back both of the international horses here, Louis.
Yep, I am pretty much with you, Dino. I like Montefilia, and if you're looking at the form lines for this Tancred, well, a lot of them do come through the Ranvit. We had Avilius, not Duace, but Sir Dragonet back in 2021. So it's a good form line. Jibayon belted them. Montefilia was good running second, but can you take 350 about it? No, I don't think you can, especially as you mentioned, Dino, with the record of these UK and European stayers coming into these races and just absolutely toweling them up. So, yeah, I'm with you there. You could easily play both of those, Baron Samedi and Cleveland, and all of them at the price, and hedge your staking, and if any of them win, you make a profit.
Boys, I've got a question for you. This is without notice, so apologies in advance. We see a lot of Australian trainers. We see Waller do it. Probably was, one of the more original, the OGs of doing it, bringing out these Europeans. Obviously, Waterhouse Spot do a little bit. Annabelle Neesham does it a bit. Mara and Eustace have done bits and pieces of it, and a few along the way. When the European trainers bring these horses over, and their form lines don't seem to be as good as the ones that the Aussies bring over, these horses fly. They go enormous. Take the last 2 weeks as an example. But then we get them over here and we put them into our system, and they take 3 or 4 preps, fly again. Can someone explain to me what's doing there?
I think the big point is they don't have to acclimatise when they come here for the one run. Solcombe's probably a perfect example of those horses in the Melbourne Cup. They're not here for a preparation or for a spell, anything like that. They're probably prepped up, fit enough overseas and brought over. I'll give them a trial, give them a a run or something like that, and then they produce. And once they have the spell, a majority of them don't tend to come back. Solcombe's perfect example. He hasn't come up this prep. El Bogadong, My Oberon, all of those horses haven't come up this autumn off preps in Australia. So I think if you think about it like this, if we sent Nature Stripped over to the UK or to somewhere over there, do you reckon they would get the best out of him as Chris Wald here? Probably not. And I think that's just the perfect example of the difference. And probably Nature Strip going to Ascot and winning, that's the same as them coming over here and taking our prize money.
So are they dropping the ball and just not training them the right way?
I think it's probably the way and the setup they train over there is probably a lot different to the tight turning city circuits that we have potentially. I'm not that educated in the training setup, but I'm guessing, Louis, that would probably be something along those lines.
Yeah, well, it's a good point. You can bring in Very Elegant to that. I mean, they took her over there for not just a run, but a whole prep that would try to lead towards an Arc de Triomphe, and they started from the base level and tried to work up, and it didn't work. So I think there is something in that, Dino, when they come here for just a straightaway win without trying to go, okay, let's make sure it runs well and hits the line this start and then keep that and maybe second, third, fourth up. I think when the intention is to come here and win straight away, they're primed up to the mark to the minute. Compared to other situations.
It's fascinating. And I think there's something in it for punters, and that's why I brought it up, because we're willing to now back William Haggis trained horses here first or second up, but we're not willing to back necessarily the Waller, Waterhouse, Neesham imports first up purely, and that's something I'm going to take note of, right? Because they all pretty much sit in the market at the same price. They've all got
very, very good point.
Market. But
I wonder if there's something in that with the prices too, Gunnar, you mentioned you can probably tie in a few of those imports that come here and say, maybe they're not as good as Solcombe, so therefore the market suggests Solcombe's a better bet in that race. But if you look at it, they're going to obviously be first up in Australia and come over here. So I think it's a fascinating and probably a very profitable, good point for punters to learn out there.
Love it. All right, and on that, I'll take the two. I'll back Baron Samedi in Cleveland because, well, you'd be stupid not to. All the effort and all the hours going into doing the Aussie form, and then you just get dusted by a thing that you think's a complete donkey, and you get done by 3 lengths. Righto, let's go to the Vinery Stud Stakes, and I've got a market here, Jen, so we've got one to finish off, round out the day. Prowess, $2.80, Pavitra, $3.50, Zugotcha, $6, Polygon, $8, Fireburn, $11, so Dazzling, $11, Paul Dyer, $15. Now, for those of you who don't know, Prowess was very, very impressive in New Zealand, I think 3 wide for the majority of the trip last start, and was just so good late. Sort of ran off the track a little bit. There was a little bit of something, and Louis probably was on shift, would have seen it, but it was a very, very impressive win, very gutsy. Pavitra won at Kembla Grange, was just phenomenal win. I was on Call Dyer, and the market came for Call Dyer, and I was pretty much at the queue to collect before they jumped, and Pavitra made Call Dyer look 5th rate. Like, it was just dominant. So very, very interesting race. The top 2 in the market look to have the race at their mercy. I think Zugotcha that win was probably half a run short, but I'm willing to be against here again. Dino, really interested in your opinion on the Vinery.
Yeah, really good race. I think you can probably say that Pavitra has the wood over Call Dyer now. They obviously met at Kembla Grange. Pavitra was outstanding there. Really, really nice. And I love these stays that you can often get a guide of how they'll come back off their trials. And Pavitra trialled up sensationally well. Chad Schofield in the saddle, more than likely he's in outstanding form. And now it's trying to dissect his Prowess better than Pavitra. Is Pavitra better than Prowess? I think they've probably got similar profiles. I would suggest Pavitra probably has the tactical map advantage here, can probably be adaptable wherever she draws in the race. So for that reason, I'm going to lean the way of her, but obviously respecting Prowess. And I think outside of that, it's probably drags away a lot in the market, and we often see this with 2,000 metre races with the 3-year-old fillies, but my play would be Pavitra, Louis.
Yep, when I started looking at this race, the key lead-in historically has been the Far Lap Stakes. So the first one I went to was Zugotcha, and the more you watch that win, and yes, it had the setback and probably wasn't quite up there, but I just am not sure this year if that's the way I want to be looking at this race. I mean, so many runners have come through the Far Lap. Fangirl last year, we had Hungry Heart back in 2021, then you had Very Elegant in 2019, on and on and on and on, even Hiam back in 2018. What I did love, though, is when I looked at Pavitra and went, okay, that's a big win. This horse is flying. Gee, I don't know, is that Kembla form, the Kembla Classic? Well, you go back to 2020 and Shout the Bar ran second in a Group 3 Kembla Classic and then won this race. So I went, okay, tick, you can come through that and win this. The time was unreal. As you've all touched on, the way it won, to the eye, in the sectionals, whatever, however you want to frame it, it was a big, big dominant win. It put a lot of these to the sword if they're going to line up again. And I'd be surprised if they were able to turn the tables. Note your comments on Prowess. Obviously, it's the unknown. Have to respect that it's hard and firm in the market off a big win under trying circumstances there in New Zealand. But I'm happy to look away from the Far Lap and Zugotcha. It'll improve off that, to be fair. But, yeah, I am all in here on Pavitra. I think it's flying, a good horse, a big win, runs time, can win.
And just, was my biggest bet of the spring and couldn't get the job done. So that just adds salt into the wound, doesn't it? Boys, best all in play of the week. I think Louis and I might be in the same boat here. Pavitra's mine by so far $3.50. The best all in play is Pavitra for me. Louis?
Yep, I was going to look towards the William Reid until now the unknown with Benedetta and Passive Aggressive maybe lining up. So I'm taking the safer option, but am still equally as keen here, Pavitra, as the best all-in.
Dino?
Yeah, a race that we didn't touch on, and it's a bit of out of my realm. The Roy Higgins over 2,600 metres, a horse I mentioned at the top of the show to follow, is Goldman out of the midweek. It's been sent down to there. A good friend of ours, DC on Twitter, has suggested it's going there. So that is my best all-in play of the week.
What Goldman that horse was dominant down at Kembla, or was it not? Was it Kembla?
Yep, Kembla first up, midweeks, it smashed them both. They'll underrate the hashtag SS form down in Melbourne, and we'll get a price in the Roy Higgins. I don't think there's a market out as yet, but there definitely will be one.
I just bagged you, I've hosed you. Now I just can't wait for the markets to open because I love it. I love the play. I think it's one of your better plays, probably the best thing you've ever brought to the all-in table. I love it, Dino. You're a star. All right, Louis, give us a midweek best bet somewhere. Left, right, centre, where are we going? Moe or Tarragona? Where are we off to?
Yeah, close. I just quickly want to mention that on Saturday night in the Alquoz Sprint in Dubai, the astrologist is going around. It's a $10 chance. I don't know if it'll win. I love when Aussie horses go over, especially to the Middle East to contest races. We go over to the UK and that's all good and well and exciting, but I don't know, something about them going to the Middle East gets me toey. So I want to see how it goes, the astrologist. Best of luck to the team. To Mornington on Tuesday, I'm heading, not Wednesday, Tuesday. A horse by the name of Butch Cassidy for the Waterhouse and Bott team. Geordie Childs is taking the rides. Drawn Barrier 3. Ran second in the listed festival stakes on debut at Flemington. Got back. Probably a certainty beat. Flew through the line. Really good last 200. Overall sectionals good. And now finds itself in a Mornington 2-year-old maiden on a Tuesday. It's short. You're not getting much meat on the bone. It's about $1.80, but fair income. If it's not better than these now with the race experience under its belt as well, I'll give the game away. So Butch Cassidy for me, race 1, Mornington number 3.
I love it, Louis. It'll be winning. Dino?
Yeah, that horse was phenomenal, Louis. Outstanding. Like that bet a lot. I'm going to go race 2, the Kenzo, favourite track in Sydney. Race 2, number 10, the King, named after our great mate. I don't know who to choose here. Lewis Willoughby, I'll call.
King Louis.
Very good.
It's the Prince of Bondi, mate. Come on.
Oh, that's true. The King of Bondi. Love the Snowden's prep. 900 metres to 1,050 metre trial. Brett Preble, who's riding phenomenally well in Sydney at the moment. Barrier 12, don't worry about that. It's a slingshot track at the Kenzo, and with a little bit of rain out around, probably even more so. So race 2, number 10, the King for me for the midweek. Scano, please.
I'm going to tip you one into punters. It'll probably start at $1.25. We're going to go Kensington race 1, number 1, Captain Amelia. J-Mac, John O'Shea was very good on debut. I think by done deal goes up at 100 metres. I think we'll probably see the best version of this girl later as it goes on further.
I think you'll get a price, Gunno. There's a couple of nice, Ballroom Bella, nice horse, and Dipsy Doodle has it's a really good pedigree. I can't remember what's its half to. I think it's close to Animo or something like that, and it's trialled up well. So you might get a nice price there.
And it ran 4th to Barber as well, so you might get a price. If you can get anything over around $2.50, that'll be a nice little way to start your day on the Kenzo. Right, boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Punters, please subscribe. Give us some tips. Now, before we do close off, actually, Dino, any winners from the trifecta? Did anyone go field?
No, none of us were smart enough. I wish we did, but no one got it. But a massive shout out, and if Derek Thompson can get in contact, he had. If I can fix my camera, give me 2 seconds. He had 4, 7, and 8. So we had Shinzo, King's Gambit, and Don Corleone. So he's gone mighty close. Get contact right in the comments below of this show, Derek, and phenomenal betting. I think there was another comment that just said Shinzo is the bet of the year or something like that. So props to you if you found it. Outstanding betting. Hang
on, protest. Boo! That person deserves a jersey, Dino. Get that person a jersey, son.
Yeah.
You can put that with Dino. Hit him up.
Yeah, it's just giving away.
You're going bankrupt if you're giving them away.
Mate, if someone's declared Shinzo is the bet of the century, get in contact with Dean, and he might even sign that for you. And away we go. Phenomenal stuff. Righto, get in there, punters. Let us know your best all-in play of the weekend, and we very much appreciate your participation. It means the world to us. Louis, thank you so much. Dino, thank you.
Thank you, fellas.
Yeah.